Do you know how many different types of agencies are there?
Yeah, sure. Like creative agency, performance marketing agency, branding agency.
No. Primarily, there are just two kinds of agencies: the one that scales and the one that fails. And lucky for you, you're part of the first one. Let's talk about it. More than 90% of the businesses fail within the first year, and the remaining 63% fail in the first 5 years. So if you can survive the first 5 years, chances are that you have built a very scalable business. And in this video, we'll talk about how to build a scalable agency in 2026. But why should you believe me? Because we've built Simple Plan and we have been running this for the past 8 years. So it's safe to say that we know how to run an agency business and how to scale it in an efficient way. We have been profitable since day one without any external investment or taking anyone else's help. We have been completely bootstrapped from the ground up, and I don't come from a privileged background. So all the money that was put in was just through savings. And through this business in the last 8 years, we have gone on to build multiple different businesses, and one of them got acquired also last year. And the single biggest shift that made Simple Plan survive for so long was that I stopped thinking of this as a service-based business, but as a scalable system that clients could buy into. So whether you're freelancing or you're thinking of starting your own agency, I know this video is going to help you a lot. I'll keep it as raw as possible and I'll give you insights that other people are not sharing. I know that because I'm shooting this directly in our office with real people side by side. So come, let's talk. In this video, we'll be covering who should start an agency, picking your winning service, the basics you need to actually call yourself an agency, then hiring, your office space or if you need an office space, and lastly, how to price your services and win your clients. Let's get right into it. First, let's understand who should start an agency today in 2026 when the world is changing in the age of AI. So let me paint you a picture. You're a video editor or a designer or a brand strategist and you're handling freelance clients. But every now and then there are more clients coming to you and you can't keep up with the demand. There are people asking you for work, they need it in 3 weeks or a month, but you can't take it on because you're already working on other projects. At this point, you're thinking that I wish I could build a team and take on more work and give it to someone else and get it done by them instead of turning these clients down. That's ideally the person who should start an agency today. Not someone who is fresh out of college or finished an online course in digital marketing and now you feel that you're ready to move on to the next chapter because you want to be your own boss. You've watched these 20,000 videos online who are telling you that you should be your own boss, and now you want to make sure how to win clients and basically build a very big team. If you're that person, spend the next 12 months, win clients, start delivering work, get better at your skills, and then come back to this video in the next 12 months or so. To the rest of you, if you're the first category of people, let's break down a couple of things first before you make this transition official. As a freelancer, if your demand is actually that high, you need to first start maintaining a wait list. If people can wait for you, that means they really want to work with you. So if you're already at your full capacity and your slots are opening up after 2 weeks, then you need to start selling that I can start this project in 3 weeks. You need to make a deposit now and then I'm going to be ready to work. If this is successful for 3 months and you're sold out and booked out for 3 months, then yes, now is the right time that people actually want to work with you only and not because you're the cheapest one out there. The second thing to keep in mind is, are you even okay to give work to someone else? And will you be able to manage and match the quality that you deliver yourself to this client, because this client is talking to you directly? If you can, then you need to validate it. Maybe give 2-3 projects out to freelancers and try to see if you can maintain the quality, maintain the timelines, and even make sure that the client is satisfied. If you can do that, then yes, you're also ready. If you're not, then first try this out. And the third most important point, are you even ready to make that transition that you can be an operator rather than being an execution person? So I've talked to over 1,000 creative people in the past 10-12 years, and most creative people that I meet, and I mean like 70-80% of them, they're good with execution, but they're not good operators. But the narrative in the world today is that every creative person who has more work needs to start an agency, which is not at all true. If you're part of that 20-30% who wants to get into management and execution cycles and client relationships and client management management and managing the team and making sure the deadlines are met, and even giving feedback to your creative people so that the quality is maintained at all times, only then you need to think about starting an agency. Because as an execution person, if you start an agency, you want to deliver work also yourself and you want to manage people also, then you're not building a scalable system. I can tell you for a fact that that's not a business, that's a hobby. And great if it works for you. Hobbies are a great thing. Maybe it will also earn you some decent amount of money, 2, 3, 4, 5 lakh. That will be the cap limit though. You can't build a scalable agency if you want to be an execution person as well as an operator. So be very clear with that. The next thing that you need to do is to pick your winning service. The most common mistake that we have seen over the years is people trying to do everything all at once. Every minute that you spend on doing execution, like video editing or designing something, is an hour that you could have spent in trying to build a new client or build relationships or create a new system. If you're doing everything all at once, then you're not a specialist, you're just a generalist. And that's hard to do when you're just starting out. I get it. It generally means that you're casting a wider net to get more clients. But you need to niche down, you need to pick one service, one audience, and then go deep. I know an agency that does podcasting in Mumbai. Nothing else. That's it. They have clearly defined what their deliverables would be, that we will create your podcast end to end. We'll take care of the production side, the post-production side, distribution side. And they have a full client roster, a complete wait list, and people know exactly who they need to go to if they are starting a new podcast. Another one does real estate photography in just Bangalore. One city, one industry, one deliverable. Being that specific is your competitive advantage, and that's how you compete with these legacy big shot agencies. But how do you pick a service? Start with what you're already good at, and then ask yourself, who specifically needs this service? That's your ideal customer persona, and that's what you need to double down upon. Defining your ideal customer persona very early when you're starting an agency is the game changer, because then you know exactly who to target and what kind of service do you need to deliver for them. Once you have clarity on the output that you're delivering to these people, then you can also explain this better too when you're pitching them. An example of this would be new age social media agencies. Like there'll be a group of 5, 6, 7, 8 creators, and they're all living under the same roof, same house that acts like an office, and they're working with multiple brands. And within that house, they're shooting content every day. So the content creation journey becomes easy. Every person is a creator themselves, and the brands also get a better output because it's a collaborative effort. Another very important insight is the AI world. In 2026, you cannot build an agency without thinking about AI. Leveraging AI in your systems and processes will automate your agency's workflow. That does not mean that you do not need to hire people, because I'm yet to meet any founder who has fired people just because of AI. AI is not doing that. AI just enhances the output of your current team. Next step is to figure out what really makes you an agency. Let's clear something up first. An agency is not a freelancer with a Gmail address, with a logo and a domain ID. The difference between an agency and a freelancer is very simple. A freelancer sells their time. An agency, on the other hand, also sells time, but for multiple people. But that's not how it works. Essentially, an agency sells systems, because if you start selling time for multiple people, then you'll never be able to scale an agency. So instead, what you have to focus on is selling systems. Which brings me to what it takes to call yourself as an agency. First is creating that system that I'm talking about. So having a repeatable process that is very clearly laid out to your end consumers, and they know exactly what the outcome of this entire process would be. The second step is, of course, having multiple people. You cannot call yourself an agency if you just work with one freelancer who you have hired from Fiverr. You need to hire multiple people. And my recommendation here would be that do try out individual freelancers first. But at this point, don't position yourself as an agency. Once you are comfortable with working with 2, 3 different freelancers, making sure the quality is matching the end expectations, only then start positioning yourself as an agency. The third one is having a complete contract and a complete management system. If you have a contract with fixed deliverables, with fixed timelines, with fixed escalations, with a fixed project scope, this is what saves you when things don't work out in your favor. It doesn't need to be very complicated. A simple Notion doc or an Asana board is also enough. And the last thing would be you having a clearly defined portfolio. If you don't have a portfolio on day one, then you're probably not ready to start an agency yet. Because if you have been working for the last 2 years, you have worked with multiple clients, you have delivered real results, only then you get comfortable with starting your own agency. So if you don't have a complete portfolio page, then you're probably not ready to call yourself an agency yet. And this checklist will also help you to validate yourself that yes, now you're ready to start an agency. The next part of building an agency that actually grows in 2026 is hiring. I understand as an agency founder, you have an innate need that you try to do everything by yourself. But that initially does not work in your favor when you're just starting out. It costs you growth. Hiring is probably the most important thing that a founder does. And if you want validation on that, then Steve Jobs also said something very similar on this. So if you're a founder, your job is to identify the gaps, then hire someone that is more capable than you in that specific gap. So the first step would be understanding what your skill set is. If you're great at video editing, for example, and you're trying to give social media as a service, then your first hire would definitely be a social media strategist who is strategizing the entire social media plan, and you're the person who brings in the video editing capabilities because you know that the best. So don't try to hire a mini version of yourself. Always hire for the gap that you have. So the next obvious question is, how do you hire if you don't have an HR? So based upon my suggestion, you do not hire an HR for the first year at least of your agency. So the next obvious question is, how do you hire then? What I did back when I was starting my own agency was investing a lot in your network. Because in your early 20s, if you're investing in people, then it's very easy for you to sell that vision to other people. So I started with not hiring the execution team, but hiring for leadership, because I didn't want to create an agency where I was the sole decision maker. So I went on to hire different leaders in the first instance, so that there were 4 people taking decisions for the agency, not one. And all 4 of them had different areas of expertise, from design to tech to business to marketing. So now what happens is we have 4 experts in 4 different domains. So now our probability of failure is 1/4. So let's talk about pricing next. And this is where most agency owners leave a lot of money on the table. And I understand where this mindset comes from. Like I've talked about in the sections previously, when you're freelancing, then you can price yourself as low as possible so that you can build a broad portfolio. But when you're an agency, your portfolio and your positioning defines the kind of clients that you are working with. Now you cannot be the one that is always the cheapest in the room. Because when you start underpricing your services, then wrong clients start finding you. So now you're not working with your ICP. Now you're not working with your niche. And this one move impacts everything that you're trying to do with an agency. But since pricing is an ethereal concept, I have broken all of this down for you in a formula that is easy to understand. I will reveal this at the very end, but first let's understand some concepts about pricing that are very important. First, never go hourly if you're in a creative domain. Because when you start going hourly, people start expecting you to produce work as fast as possible. So it basically means if I can produce something faster, I'll get paid less. That doesn't work. The second important concept is value-based pricing. Having a fixed catalog and a pricing structure helps. But if that's the only pricing that you're going for, then you will never be able to attract the right clients, because pricing is very much correlated with the value that you're providing to the end consumer. And if your baseline pricing is too low, then serious customers might not take you seriously. For example, a logo is not worth 1 lakh because you end up spending 10-20 hours on it. A logo is worth 1 lakh or even 10 lakh. But for a consumer brand that has millions of customers, it's the first thing that everyone sees as soon as they interact with the brand at any different touch point. So then it is very important in that context. The third point to keep in mind is retainers. If you can build a system that can help you get recurring money from a client on a month-to-month basis, then that will always be better than one-time fixed cost project. But it depends upon each domain. For social media, it's easy to have retainers, but for creative services like branding, it's generally a project-based cost. In that case, you need to come up with a service that is an add-on which happens on a recurring basis. For example, you can offer a design retainer where you can design all the social media posts for your client, all the packaging, all the little things that a business might need. Let's say brochures, case study files, new presentations, so different things. So you can build packages like that. And the final pro tip in this section is if you can clearly provide this is how much I charge because I provide this much ROI for this service, which means I will make sure that you can earn 5 lakh from the work that I'm doing. This is very helpful for agencies that focus on performance marketing or marketing in general, or if you're doing sales or lead generation. But let's get on to the actual formula on how pricing is calculated. The first is the project hours. How much time will you take? I've already talked about not giving hours to the clients, not doing hour-based pricing. But first thing that we need to figure out is our project hours. Then we need to figure out what is your rate. So your rate is expenses divided by total hours. When I say expenses, I mean the complete salary, the overhead, every expense that you have, which is divided by the execution hours that you have. So if you have 10 people in your team, but 5 people are execution people, then only those hours are calculated, which will get you your rate, which is Y. The total project cost is, of course, X into Y, which is the most easiest thing. But the trick here is that there is an added value. So there is a factor of value that gets added on to each project that you pitch. So for example, if I need to do a task that takes 80 hours and my rate is 1000, then my total rate comes out to be 80,000. But that's just a benchmark for a minimum price for a project. So I know that the minimum I can do for this project is 80,000. So now we'll come to the value added. So let's say it is high impact. I'm doing something like packaging design for a FMCG brand. So now this is high impact because packaging is defining if people are going to pick this product up off the shelf or not. So it's very high impact for the end consumer. Now, how competitive is this? Is also a factor that I will consider. And based upon industry standard, let's say for example, I would charge anything between 80k to 1.3 lakh. So now if I can even pitch 1.1 lakh or 1.2 lakh, that's more money for me. And lastly, my suggestion of being in this industry for over 14 years now is always under promise and over deliver. It will make sure that your clients are always retained with you. Next up is office space. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the 2 most important factors that people generally miss on entirely when they're thinking about office space. The first one is personal preference. It first of all depends upon the priorities of what you are optimizing for. Do you want a life where you're staying at one location and you're actively going to an office space, you have a routine? Or do you want a life where you want the freedom to be traveling around the world? It's totally a lifestyle choice. And most people skip on this part and start giving advice which is very biased. Second factor is the domain you're in. If you're doing something technical, like for example, if you have a dev first agency or you have a performance marketing agency or a major chunk of your work requires deep uninterrupted work, then remote is generally a better option. It saves you money, it saves you time, it gives you more freedom. So remote has these advantages. If you're doing something in the creative domain, for example, branding or social media marketing or video creation, then it's very difficult to run a remote agency because ideation, brainstorming, it happens best when it's not on a Zoom call. When you're sitting face to face on a table and people are throwing random ideas out there, generally that is when the best ideas come on the table. Physical space does also signal seriousness. So if you're serious about your work and you have a lot of clients that are going to visit you, then yes, in that case as well, an office space is recommended. But again, I know whatever I'm going to tell you will be personally biased. I'm going to leave this choice to you. What is your lifestyle preference and what is the domain that you're in? I'm a very big advocate for in-office work because it gives you discipline, it gives you schedule, it gives you the freedom to meet and interact with a lot of people. You can brainstorm ideas and a lot of great creative ideas come when you are physically working with each other. I'm going to leave you with a question. That is, if you would disappear for a month, what would happen to your agency? If the answer is that it would fall apart, then you haven't built an agency yet. And if the answer is that it would still keep running, then congrats! You have actually built a scalable system. Start only when you're ready and start only when you've actually worked with clients in a freelance capacity. Pick only one service and go very deep in that service. Also, make your agency AI native from the very start. Set up your complete systems like a process, a client management system, a contract, and a portfolio before you start calling yourself an agency. Then get on to hiring because that's the most important role for you as a founder. And figure out your pricing. Don't give random pricing. Always price based upon the value that you're providing to your end consumers. That's the goal. And that is what makes it worth building. And lastly, plan for an office. If you want to, you can start remote, but do plan for a physical office as a milestone, even if you do a hybrid setup. So all the insights that are coming to you are coming in a very unfiltered form. That's the goal of this channel. So make sure you subscribe and comment down below on the kind of videos that you want to see next. Until next time, may the force be with you. Is your comparative advantage. क्या हो गया? तुम्हें को बोलने दो तुम तो समझ आएगा.